Hey everybody, Randy Patterson here with Boomerosity. Boy, do I have a pleasant surprise for you, and that's this gentleman you see behind me here, T-Bear. He's a blues artist, been recording since the 70s, but odds are you may or may not have heard of him. But this guy is phenomenal, and he's played and knows everybody. So you're going to definitely want to hear this interview, but more importantly, you're also going to want to get this album, The Way of the World. Phenomenal, extremely well written songs, each one from the heart, and T Bear's DNA all through every syllable of every lyric. You're absolutely going to love this album, and I think you're really going to love this interview. So, just for you blues fans, you're going to love the fact that he's currently touring with Walter Trout, who's a good friend of Boomerosity's. So, definitely check it out. And if you don't mind, after you watch it, please hit like. Please subscribe to whatever channel you're watching or listening to this on, and share it with your friends and ask them to do the same thing. It won't cost you guys anything at all, and it helps us out a lot. So until next time, this is Randy Patterson with Boomerosity. Take care.
Hey,
Howdy. How's it going?
howdy.
Well, hey, thanks for taking the time to chat with me. I love your work. So,
Well, I appreciate you having me on your show. I really do.
where are you dialing in from?
Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. It's been a while since I've been there. I used to go there a lot in business, and I grew up in Phoenix, so obviously it wasn't that far to go to. But it's been a while. I imagine it's changed a bit.
Yeah, it's changing all the time. I'm going to be in your neck of the woods next week. Well,
Really?
maybe not your neck of the woods, but I'm going to be in North Carolina,
Oh, really? What part?
Charlotte.
Yeah, it's a little. Are you playing there?
No, no, I'm going to go on vacation.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Yeah. And I was thinking of driving to the Smoky Mountains. What should I do?
It's great. You're missing your timing is good because last week was Rod Run, and Rod Run is twice a year, and everything grinds to a stop from gridlock because of all the cars. Now it's a lot less crowded. I mean, it's getting closer to tourism, tourist season and all that, but it's not bad. So if you come over, give me a heads up and we'll meet up for coffee or something if you have time.
Oh, yeah, that would be great. That would be great.
So tell Boomerosity viewers and listeners who you are, your background, and a little bit about what led up to doing this album. I know what the story is, but I'd like for new fans to hear about it.
Well, hey, cats and kittens. It's T Bear, as you can see behind him. Randy's got the wall up there. And what I do is I'm an oasis for your ears and your mind. And the best thing that I can say is, I've been a studio musician most of my life, and I've played on lots of records, but I also like writing songs. And I learned how to write songs kind of at an early age when I went to an open mic night in New York City.
Hmm,
I was born in New York City, raised in the Caribbean, but then came back to New York City.
cool.
And I went to an open mic night at a place called Dr. G's, Dr. Generosity's, and small little dive bar kind of place, peanut barrels, popcorn machine, sawdust on the floor, all wood around. It didn't look like a New York City bar. And a guy called Al Bonetta walked in with two of his artists. Al was a manager. One was Steve Goodman, the other one was John Prine.
Oh, wow.
And this is going back to like 1970, 71, something like that, 72.
Mhm.
And John Prine got on the stage and he started to play. And the first song he sang was Angel from Montgomery. The second one was Sam Stone. And the third one was Hello in There. And I'd never heard anything like that in my life. And I wanted to be a songwriter from that moment on. I loved Bob Dylan. I loved, really, really well-crafted songs. And, there were some really good songwriters in those days, and Beatles being one of them, Lennon and McCartney. And so I set the bar really high for myself, and started playing playing sessions and things like that. From that open mic night place, I got a session. One of my first sessions was with a guy called Richie Havens,
I've
and,
heard of them.
and I played on his Mixed Bag 2 album.
Wow.
And I didn't even have the name T-Bear yet. It was my legal name, and so that my legal name's on his album. Anyway, long story short, there was a bunch of people that liked the way I played and kind of carried myself. And I would get invited to go to sit in with people and play jams and things like that. And I got to jam with the Grateful Dead down at the Fillmore. I was brought on stage by Jerry Garcia, and
Oh, cool.
I was working in a music store at the time called Manny's Music, and I just wanted to be around musicians. I just wanted to be around that tribe because my father was a brassiere manufacturer, and I did not want to do that. I just didn't want to make brassieres for the rest of my life.
There's some
I
one
didn't
liners
mind.
there.
I didn't mind. Brassieres, but I just didn't want to do that the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, I got a record deal in 1978 and put an album out called Red Hot and Blue by Richard T. Bear. And I was really lucky because, well, I wasn't lucky being on RCA at the time. It was a terrible place to be. But that being said, I was lucky because one of the songs that I did went to like top 5 in the world, in the dance charts and in the world charts. It was called Sunshine Hotel, which
Mhm.
and it's still being needle dropped and played and sampled today by DJs around the world. I got to play with the guys from Kiss. I was ghostwriting with them and playing with them. Billy Squier, I was writing with him. I got to meet a guy called Stephen Stills. He put me in his band. I started living with him at his house. We started writing songs together. I played with Crosby, Stills and Nash. I was lucky enough to play on a song called Southern Cross, which went to the top. So I started getting my cred and had a couple of records out. Moved to Europe, got a record deal over there, made a bunch of records over in Germany, and then I met a girl, fell in love. We got married, and she said to me, "No more touring, no more music for you. You got to get a day job. You got to go and raise, you're going to raise a family." And I took a hiatus from music for 25 years.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was over. And I went to work at a light bulb company selling light bulbs door to door every day for 5 years. Then I opened my own company called, oddly enough, Bear Lighting, and raised my kids. And after like 20 years together, we separated, got divorced. I met a new woman a couple of months later, and she said, "I know who you are. I know the records you played on. I know what you do because my ex was in your band like, 20 years ago." And
Wow.
I was like, "Really?" And she goes, "Yeah, and it's time for you to put a band together." So she nagged me and nagged me and nagged me. We got married. The only difference was she was into it. She wanted me to, play music.
Mhm.
And she went back to school, went to college to get a degree. I sat across from her desk every night at a piano, like an upright piano,
Mhm.
and she would do her homework, and I would write songs and play to her, and she would say, "Oh, great hook there. That's really good. Oh, that's going to get them," and that change is really interested, And her name was Nina, and we were married, and she said, "You got to make a record now." And I was over at Robby Krieger,
Mhm.
his studio, Horse Latitudes, and I
Yep.
still played on sessions and things. And Robby said to me, "When are you gonna make another record of yours? I love your records." And I said, well, I don't have deep pockets, and I'm not signed to a label. And the thing is, why torture myself?" And he says, "Well, because you make good records, you write good songs, and I'll give you my studio if you pay the engineer, I'll give you my studio." And I went,
Wow.
"Wow." He said, "Oh, one more caveat. I got to play on it." And I said,
Oh, terrible deal.
"Right." So we went in the studio. I got a guy called Tony Bronigal to produce it.
Mhm,
And Tony, I had met with Ricky Lee Jones.
mhm.
It was one of his first jobs. And I loved the way he produced blues records. So I thought I would get him. And I said, "Well, who should we get to play in the band?" He says, "We'll start calling all your friends." So on that record, and the record was called Fresh Bear Tracks. This is it right here.
Mhm, mhm. Cool.
Um, on that record is Robby Krieger,
Mhm.
Stephen Stills, Edgar Winter,
Whoa,
Tom Scott, the E Street Horns, some
man.
of the guys from the Heartbreakers, some of the guys from Steely Dan, on and on and on and on and on.
A bunch of
Everybody,
schlubs, in other words,
yeah,
right?
exactly. But the LA Mafia, as it
Yeah,
were.
right.
And
Wannabes.
I put a song on there called "Give It Up" that Stephen Stills and I wrote 30 years before, that I found in a shoebox on a cassette. And I said, "Stephen, can you play on the song that we wrote?" And he said, "Yeah, absolutely." So he played on it. Walter Trout came in and they traded licks. And
Well,
it went to,
Roberts recorded in Robbie's Walter, I'm sorry,
yeah,
Walter recorded at Robbie's studio at least twice, I believe, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And it went to number one in the Netherlands during COVID.
Wow.
So the album Fresh Bear Tracks got great reviews. It was rated 9 out of 10. They never gave a 10 over in England at Maximum Volume Music, which is a great place to get reviewed. And COVID happened. We couldn't tour, we couldn't do anything, and I started writing because I had nothing else to do. And I came up with The Way of the World.
Mhm.
And so, that being said, that's how that album came about. But what I wanted to tell you was, and your listeners, if you indulge me for just a moment,
Sure.
I was almost finished with Fresh Bear Tracks. And the tragedy was that my wife, Nina, at the time was diagnosed stage 4 cancer and passed away
Oh,
that year,
oh,
just
so sorry.
just
I
before
didn't know
the
that.
album came out. And she was the reason why I got back into music. She's the
Mm,
reason that album exists. So I dedicated that album to her.
mm,
The last song on this Fresh Bear Tracks album
mhm.
is called Nina's Song, and it's played almost every day on Paris radio because it's such a sentimental and beautiful love song to somebody. And it
Mhm.
was oddly enough, ironically, it was the first song that I wrote sitting across from her when she did her homework. And
Wow.
yeah, and the title at the time was From the Cradle to the Grave, so it was unbelievably powerful. So she said to me, a couple of weeks before she passed on, and I'd been her caregiver for the year, or that she was, terminal. She wrote it down. She said, um, "Go out on tour." Well, first she said, "Finish the album, go out on tour, never, cancel a gig, live your best life, be happy, and fall in love again." And
Wow.
I have that letter she wrote me, and I've honored that. And that's the way I looked at The Way of the World. Um, I'm gonna write good songs. I'm gonna write real songs, authentic songs. I'm not trying to fit into any mold. I'm not gonna, write the way everybody else is writing. I'm gonna write stories because what I do is I write the lyrics first, and usually it's from a short story. That I like to write short stories.
Mhm.
I love reading books, and So every song on The Way of the World is an homage to something. If and we can go through some of those things, and I can explain how they
Yeah.
came about, the backstories. So that's how that album came about. The record company, and oddly enough, I got signed by a label. When Fresh Bear Tracks was finished, and they asked me for another album, and I did this album a little quieter. I did it over at Lawrence Juber's house.
Mhm.
Lawrence Juber is a guitar player from
Yep.
Wings,
Right.
a great guitar player. And I knew Lawrence for 40 years, and we're really good mates. And we play in my band, the band I have. He plays in my band. And I got Tony Bronicle again to co-produce with Lawrence. We did it in Lawrence's house. We didn't go into like Robby's studio. We kind of did it at home, and because COVID was happening and other things were happening, and I got some great players on this album as well. Um, and for example, the bonus track on this record is called Red Harvest,
Mhm.
and I was fortunate enough that Paul Rogers from Bad Company
Mhm.
sings a duet with me. He called me up and said, "I want to sing on that song with you." And it really came about because I watched CNN when Russia invaded the Ukraine, and I wanted to write something about it. So I started writing a kind of a poem called Red Harvest, because the Ukraine is the breadbasket of that part of the world. They make wheat, they grow wheat and sunflower oil, all kinds of things. And I knew at that point it's not going to be a normal harvest. It'll be a red harvest this year.
Mhm.
So um, I called up Bruce Quarto from Quarto Valley Records, who I'm signed to, and I said I have a song idea, and I mean I wrote it in like literally 10 minutes, and
Wow.
I want to put out this out on on your label, and maybe we can raise some money for the Ukrainian Red Cross and the World Kitchen, who are feeding everybody, because I saw on CNN all the women and children and grandmothers and all leaving by trains and buses and cars and bicycles and walking to the Polish border, and the World Kitchen was feeding them at the border, and the men had to stay because they were conscripted into the
Right.
army,
Right.
and it was heartbreaking. And so I called up Lawrence and Tony, and I said, "Let's go write." I wrote a song. Let's go in the studio with this. I got Leland Sklar,
Bass player.
from
Yeah.
the bass player, looks like Dumbledore, right?
He's been
Um,
on everything.
yeah, I called him up. We're label mates. He has a band called The Immediate Family,
Right.
and yeah. So I called up a few friends, and then I called up David Crosby, and I said, "Cros, I got a song for you to sing on. It's all about the Ukrainian people, and we want to get it out there. We want to raise some money for the Red Cross over there."
Wow.
Yeah, I sent it to him. I didn't hear back from him for 2 days. I called him up. He said, "I'm kind of busy this week. I'll get back to you next week. Let me listen to it." And that night, I got my phone rings, and the guy's on the phone. He says, "Hey," with a British accent. He said, "Hey, it's Paul. I want to sing on your record." And I had just been on the phone with Paul, a Brit, my lawyer, Paul Quinn,
Mhm.
that morning, and I thought it was him. And I said, "You're a lawyer. You're not a singer. So stop taking the piss out of me." And he was like, "No, no, no. I want to sing on your record, mate. It's Paul Rogers." I said, "Oh shit. I thought you were Paul Quinn. Take the piss out of me." And he says, "No, no, no. Bruce sent me your tracks, and I love the words, and I want to sing on it." Well, that was that. That was the choice at that moment. All the planets aligned, and my higher power was talking to me. So I listened, and within a day it was done.
Wow.
So It's great. And Paul, I got to thank him because he's a very special man and probably one of the best rock and roll singers in the world, no
Oh,
question
absolutely.
about it.
Yeah.
Certainly the best one over in England. And
He's one
that
of my
happened.
he's on my bucket list, short bucket list of people I still have yet to interview, and I love his work all the way from, from Free on all the way up through Bad. I mean, I was in high school when Bad Company came out, so I was just like,
Exactly.
that was it for me.
Yeah, he just sent me his new album and vinyl, and I'm gonna put it on. I got it yesterday.
Cool.
So that's how the way of the world came about.
So
And
from concept to finished product ready to package, how much time are we talking about?
you know, from the beginning to I think 18 months
Yeah, not
from when
bad.
I came up with all the songs. Went into Lawrence's house like once or twice a week. I and the way we recorded it was very interesting. The way we recorded it, 80% of this record was I would bring a keyboard over, and I would sing and play to a click track, and we put it down, and then we'd send the track over to Tony's at his house where he has the drum set up. He put the drums on it to the click track. Then we'd send it over to the bass player, whoever it was good, like Hutchison, who plays with Bonnie Raitt. We
Right.
sent it over to him. He'd be sitting in his hotel room with his laptop. He'd put the bass on, and then Lawrence would put the guitars on in his house, and then I go over to his house and sing over there with a good mic. And we only went into a studio per se, and it was still in someone's home. It was J.J. Blair's house studio. Who's got a phenomenal studio. I mean, he's got the best mics next to Capitol Records that I've ever seen in the
Whoa.
collection. Yeah, I mean, he engineers and works with Joe Bonamassa,
Mhm.
uh, Rod Stewart, Smokey Robinson. So they all come over to his house
Yeah.
and record there. So I went there because he's got a great grand piano. And so Lawrence, a bass player, and Tony and I went over to JJ's house, and I sat down and I did a song on here called "Breathe." Um, we cut it live, one take. That's the vocal. A song called "Jewel." We cut it live, one take. That's the vocal. And then I used his grand piano on "Dinner for One."
Mhm.
Um, so there were two. Oh, "They Can Kill You" was cut at Robbie Krieger's. It was left off Fresh Bear tracks because we ran out of tracks,
Mhm.
and we used it on this album.
Cool.
Um, yeah.
There seems to be a trend again. First I've ever heard of it, and maybe you know of others before it, but back in the '70s, Elvis recorded a lot of music in the jungle room of Graceland, and that was done. RCA sent a mobile truck over there and they mic'd up there and such. But now, you're talking about recording over at Lawrence's. I interviewed Will Turpin of Collective Soul a couple weeks ago. That whole album was recorded out in Palm Springs in Elvis's old house that he had there. And it seems like that's the beauty of things like Pro Tools or whatever software is available, but then also being able to just have that laid back feel, I guess. I don't know. I mean, from a musician
I think I
standpoint, what does
think
that mean to you?
I think the technology is so amazing right now, that you can you can think of somebody. Oh, who would be great on this track? Blah blah blah, and send it to their house
Yeah,
in
just Dropbox it to them.
in Glasgow, Scotland.
Yeah.
And he can do it there. You
Mhm.
know, I think that's unbelievable. You know,
Yeah, it is, and it helps build the informal camaraderie, I think. I mean, what Will was telling me, they ran into Brian Ray of, McCartney's guitarist
yeah,
there.
Brian's a mate of mine.
Yeah, and he just, they brought him in he did some guitar work on this new album of theirs. I mean, technology can be a blessing and a curse if it wasn't for it, we wouldn't be doing this right now, and I would be
Ex
trying to figure out what to do. But yeah, I mean, I just love how this is helping you guys do great things like this. So aside from recording at Lawrence's house, how else was this album different to work on compared to all the others that you've worked on?
This was different because, I like I said, I took a concept of an homage to people
Mhm.
and consciously thought as I was writing the songs, the lyrics, um, the best ways to do this. And so I'll go through a couple of the titles on the record.
Yeah.
They're on the back here.
Mhm.
So if we start with "The Way of the World," the title track, um, I'd been listening to Bob Dylan for a while, and I thought to myself, what would Bob say about the world and about what? And so all the lines in that were conscious thoughts of what would Bob say, and you know, um, before the fall, for example. Um, I was listening to Pet Sounds by by the Beach Boys.
Beach Boys,
And
yeah.
yeah, and I was listening to and I saw a documentary on Brian Wilson, and I went, he's the Mozart of today, if you think about it, in many
Mhm.
ways. So I
Mhm.
took an homage to Brian Wilson, to Mozart, some of the changes, and then at that night that when I was writing this song, there was an Amy Winehouse documentary on. And I was listening to some of the things she said and did, and I went, I'm putting a little bit of Amy Winehouse in this.
Mhm.
So that was the homage to those three. Um, Walter Mitty's Glasses. That was a short story I wrote during COVID. It's all
Mhm.
about a guy that walks into an antique store, goes up to one of the kiosks in the store, and there's a whole bunch of glasses sitting there. And he goes up to the the mirror, puts one of the glasses on, and he looks at him. He goes, "No, that's not me." Grabs another glass and puts the glasses on, and he's looking. Yeah, that's not right. He goes and grabs another glass out of the box on the top of the counter, puts it on, and there's somebody else looking back at him. He's handsome. His hair is perfect. He's got a tan. He's wearing a suit. He takes the glasses off, and it's him again. Puts them back on. It's the other guy. And he says to the owner of the store, says, "Where do you get these glasses?" He says, "I don't know. Some guy comes in and once a month and sells us a bunch of glasses, and we put them out." And he says, "Whose glasses are these?" He says, "I don't know. They came in a box." So he looks at the glasses and he reads over here. It says, "Oh, property of Walter Mitty." Well, Walter Mitty was a story and a movie about a daydreamer, about somebody that can, thinks himself out of the office, out of his bookkeeping job, or out of whatever he does. It was a movie with Danny Kaye,
Mhm.
and then it was later remade um, with Kristen Wiig, Sean Penn. Um, I can't think of his name right now, but it came out about 10 years ago. And I went, okay. So I wrote the short story, Walter Mitty's Glasses. And then I decided, well, that's worthy of a song. And I was listening to 10cc that day and listening to the reggae song.
Mhm.
And I went, okay, I got to throw a little reggae on this. And it's all about a guy who walks into a party, he's got those glasses on, and the best looking girl in the party, he thinks is going to go home with him because he's the best looking guy now. So that's Walter Mitty's Glasses. A Change Will Do Me Good is Bo Diddley. It's an homage to Bo Diddley, and no one's done a Bo Diddley kind of groove in a while. And that, by the way, went to #1 over in the Netherlands on Easter Sunday.
Cool.
That single, yeah. Um, This Bird Has Flown is an homage to the Beatles, of course. That
Mhm.
line from a
Blackbird.
Beatles song.
Yeah.
Breathe is all about being in COVID, the world, and not knowing what's going to happen next,
I
and
love
what's
that
what's
song. That's my favorite, by the way.
Thank you. I got a note from a therapist in Florida. She said it's therapy. It's not therapy, it's therapy. I said, thank you. I'll remember to use that.
Trademark that word. Yes.
Yeah. And it's really all about what we go through. And sometimes when we have nowhere to turn and nothing to do, and we can't, think our way out of things, we have to just breathe and
That's right.
and get through it. Dinner for One is all about a guy. Well, it's the Buena Vista Social Club.
Hmm.
I was watching that. It's a documentary done in Havana, Cuba, maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And I was watching that. And I was listening to the way that Cuban writers would craft songs and the romantic flavor and words that they would use. As you translated it, it was unbelievable. And these were all people in their 70s, 80s, and even 90 years old at that time when they did this documentary. And I just thought it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And I walked right over to the piano and started playing Latin stuff. Because as a kid, like I said, I was born in New York City, but I grew up in the Caribbean. I was in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and
Nice.
Haiti, in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and I remember going and listening to like tons and tons of Latin music. So I loved Latin music, even in New York City when I was a teenager. So I wrote a song, Dinner for One, about a guy that's preparing this elaborate meal, this beautiful meal, and he cuts flowers and he cuts them low so he can see not to interfere with the gaze of his woman, and he makes everything. He dresses in a suit, finest suit, and puts on songs on the Victrola, and the ceiling fans are going around, and outside the neons blinking from exhaustion, screaming promises of what's inside, but nobody's watching. And no, she's not there. He's just making a dinner for one. But he does it all the time, and people think he's crazy, but that's what he needs to do. And I took that to heart because, after Nina passed and during COVID, I made a lot of dinners for one. And so that was the genesis of that. True Romance was about I guess about a slow dance I once had. And I thought to myself, when I was dancing with this person, this would be a beautiful song that someone could play at their wedding and dance to. I'm a romantic. I can't help it. Then there's Your Husband's Got a Gun, and that's my humor. I guess that's what do you call that? Dark humor or
Gallows humor, even.
gallows humor, right? About a guy that shouldn't be done what he did, and but it's funny and I made it very light, and I made it very humorous as opposed to it being uh, dark. Jewel, there's a good one. Jewel is not about the singer Jewel.
No, it's not. Yeah.
No, it is not. It's about a date I went on. It's about somebody called Julie that works for Lou Adler in LA. And for all your listeners that don't know who Lou Adler is, he's a iconic, legendary producer who was involved in A&M Records, who produced Carole King's Tapestry.
And Cheech and Chong. He was behind Cheech and Chong too.
He did all the Cheech and Chong movies.
Yep.
The Mamas and Papas, California Dreamin', that's Lou Adler.
I'd kill to talk to him.
Yeah. And he sits at every Laker game in the front row next to Jack Nicholson.
Yep.
He's in that white hat, and Jack's always usually next to him. So I took out his assistant on a date, Julie, and she'd worked for him for 40 years, and I wanted to hear stories, and I liked her. She was really cool, and I thought it'd be a great date. So we're on the date, and I said, "Julie, you have any nicknames?" She says, "Yeah, I just got a nickname not long ago called Jewel." And I said, "Wow, how'd you get that?" She said, "Well, I delivered some Laker tickets from Lou, who was not going to be in town for these games. I delivered them to Jack Nicholson. I had to drive all the way over during rush hour
Oh God.
and give him some tickets for his friends so they could sit at the game together." And apparently Jack said, "You know, Julie, you're no longer going to be Julie to me. You're always going to be Jewel." So she says, "That's how I got my nickname." I said, "Oh, okay. That's pretty interesting story." I said, and I'm trying to make points here. Julie, I think I'm going to write you a song." And she looked at me and she said, "Well, you wouldn't be the first." I went, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, you wouldn't be the first. I've had songs written about me." I said, "All right, who wrote songs about you?" She says, "J.D. Souther."
Whoa, Eagles, yeah.
I said, "Oh man, I'm in deep here. I got myself in deep." And I thought to myself, yeah, he probably wrote a song for her, but it probably doesn't mention her name. And it could have been for any woman. He could probably play it for any girl, and they would think it was. So I said, "No, the song I'm going to write for you, Julie, is one you're going to know it's about you." So that's how Jewel came about. And the first line says it all. "Are you a diamond or a precious gem? You got your nickname, Jewel, from your famous friend." So that tells the story right there. So she
Yep.
knows it's about her. And then in the middle on the bridge, I said, "Come on, Julie, take a peek." So, that's how Jewel came about. It's really fun to write songs, and it's really, it's great. I got to tell you, the next album I'm doing is going to be called The Book of Secrets, and I have it about halfway written right now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and the Book of Secret. You know where your Book of Secrets is?
Yeah, right
Right
there.
here.
That's right.
That's the Book of Secrets.
Mhm.
And I've got a song about well, let's see, the ballad of J.D. Salinger, the guy that
Mhm.
wrote Catcher in the Rye.
Captain Ron,
I've got,
yeah.
his secret. Um, the next song on it will be a song called No Reservations about Anthony Bourdain.
Mhm.
And it goes through a bunch of people like that. And
Wow.
it'll be called The Book of Secrets. I love it. I love writing. I just never want to stop. And I'm
So,
writing better now than I've ever have in my life. I have more to say.
what is it about us in our, later in life that we become more creative, more I mean, I started all this stuff 15 years ago, and, I'm 64 now, so it's just like, where has this been all my life? And I'm sure you must feel the same way from a songwriting standpoint where, yeah, you've written forever, but right now I mean, it sounds like if correct me if I'm wrong, but it almost sounds like you're feeling like you're at your best, that you've ever been.
I know I'm at my best. I know the stuff I write right now is because back in the day, when I was young and I had the record deals with major labels and things like that, the head of A&R or the guy that signs you or whatever would come over to you and say, "Okay, look at the charts right now. Look what's in the charts and follow that formula."
Mhm.
When we write a song, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when we write a song, we have to tell the story in under 4 minutes
Yeah.
because, you'll never get it on radio unless it's under 4 minutes.
Yep.
And you can't develop the character. You can't develop the as many emotions as you want to say. So now when I look at things, I went, or I go to, or I see a movie or an episodic thing that I'm watching, and I went, and they bring out the character, and you get to understand the character better. Yeah,
Mhm.
you could say in a song, yeah, she broke my heart. She left. Well, okay, why did she break your heart? What was her reasoning behind it? Why did these things happen?
Mhm.
Because people want to know about that, and the backstory or the. So I'm fortunate in the way that I think as we get older, we spend more time with the Book of Secrets and
Mhm.
try to analyze why we did what we did when we did it.
Mhm.
Okay. And
Introspective.
we should not choose to shut the door on it, but we shouldn't choose to live in it.
Right.
We have to learn from it.
Learn from it. Exactly.
You
Yep.
know, I one of the hardest things I had to do in my life, if you don't mind me saying this and pontificating for a minute, um, was not to be grateful for things that I'd gotten, but to be grateful for things that I'd lost.
Mm, that's powerful.
And the reason is because if you can if you can live in faith that there's a tomorrow or you're going to get through things, that's what breathe is all about.
Mhm.
Um, then you're not living in fear.
Right.
And fear will paralyze you, absolutely paralyze you. And and just cut your legs out from under you, and if you can live in faith that, okay, this door closed, I lost my job, she left me, or this happened or that happened, there's going to be another door opening,
Mhm.
and it may not be exactly when I want it to be, but it's going to happen,
Mhm. Mhm.
and if you can live in gratitude for things that are taken away, I mean, of course, I don't mean, the person that your soulmate or things like that, you're not going to be grateful for that, but you're going to, you got to live your life. And I think I don't know if as we get older, we overthink things, but we certainly think about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. And that's why I love this album. I could tell listening to it, you were writing from the heart.
Yes.
You were in those songs. That was you can tell when there's DNA in a song, and not just trying to write a hook. There's bliss, there's pain, there's blood, sweat, tears, you know, skin, the whole bit.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
when those are the best songs. And it's not exactly always how articulate they are, but how raw they are. And
Yeah.
that's what hooks people. And I think it hooks people like me, at least, to be able to just feel all of those emotions, all those scars, and so out of all the songs on this album, which one would you point to as a calling card for it, saying, "Hey, if you like this," and especially to people who have not heard any of your solo work before, what song would you point to on this album saying, "Hey, if you like this, you're really gonna love the rest of the record"?
Mm, that's hard because they're all my children.
Yep.
And
That's why I say don't pick a favorite, pick a calling card.
yeah. Well, if you've never heard my stuff, um, I think Breathe stands out,
Mhm,
um, and explains the way I'm gonna tell you about myself and about my work.
mhm.
And then I think, wow, that's hard. Red Harvest sticks out to me.
Mhm.
Um, Before the Fall, is really about it's about two things. It's before COVID, when COVID hit, and then it's also about when two people separate.
Mm.
Um, So yeah, I think those are good ones. I mean, if it's grooves, it's The Way of the World and A Change Will Do Me Good. And
Mhm.
and if we want to talk about, how powerful women are, they can kill you is in so many ways,
Mhm.
is a great soul groove. It's a soulful groove. It's got that, kind of New Orleans kind of groove going to it.
Mhm.
And Your Husband's Got a Gun is so romantic. It in a funny way. In a funny way. It's a romance in a funny way.
Mhm.
He's he smelled us when he got home, the air ripe with what we done. I don't know, dinner for one.
It's just
I like the yeah, exactly. I know. Sometimes I choose words that are that are raw. Um, yeah, I like what I do. I like being able to make music and see the reaction on people.
yeah.
I'm out on the road with Walter Trout now. I've been playing in his band,
Love
and
Walter. I've interviewed him. He's among the person I've interviewed the most. He, Beth Hart, and um, Steve Lukather. They're the three
yeah.
most interviewed people I've done.
Do you know that Walter recorded "Breathe" on his new album?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's right. Okay, I didn't draw the correlation though, because yeah, okay, that duh. So that makes sense to me now.
yeah. So he heard it and he went, "Oh, is it okay? Can I do that song too?" It has that. That was the
Right.
calling card, right?
Yep.
I think people are going to record that song and they're going to do it different ways, and it's going to be
Mhm.
interesting if I'd like to see all the ways it can come out. You
Yeah,
know
yeah.
that song, but I love Walter, and Walter and I know each other 30 years.
Wow.
We met at a musicians picnic. I used to yeah, I used to work with a thing called MAP, the Musicians Assistance Program, which became Music Cares.
Music cares, yeah.
Yeah, and, to help put, musicians that had, alcohol or drug, problems into detoxes
Mhm.
and sober living and things like that. So once a year, we'd have a musicians picnic, and all the musicians, would show up and they'd play for free, and it was an, outdoor concert,
Mhm.
and, we'd raise money, for good things. And I met Walter there because he was playing with Canned Heat 30 years ago.
Mhm.
And then he and I became really, really good friends. And then he called me this last year and said, "Hey, my keyboard player has something going on health wise, and I'm on my way over to Europe. Would you play in my band?" And I said, "Sure." And I did about 13 countries with him. And then he said, "Would you play on this U.S. tour?" I said, "Sure." And he said, "Would you play on the Australia tour?" And I said, "Sure." So I just got back from Australia and New
Wow.
Zealand. I was playing with Walter in Australia, and I did a T-Bear gig in Wellington, New Zealand, and I'm back now. He's over in Europe supporting the Broken album,
Yeah.
and he'll be back in July. I'll go on the road with him again, and he loves pointing out that he's got this guy in his band called T-Bear, and he introduces me, and he's very generous to me. And the band walks off, and I solo, and then he'll come out and play harmonic on something that I'm singing and or playing, and
Well,
we have
you
we
you
have a really
probably
good
know
time.
this story then. Every time I interview him, he says, "Hey, I got roots from where you're near because I was born where he used to have a girlfriend at way, 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 way before Marie, and is in Maryville, Tennessee. And his old girlfriend left New York and went to Maryville College in Maryville, Tennessee, and that's where I was born. I was born like 3 blocks from that college.
Oh wow!
And so he always mentions Maryville whenever he remembers when we talk where I live and did, oh yeah. So, but it's been years since I've seen Walter live. I mean, the last time I saw him, I was still living in Dallas.
Well, I got to tell you, he's 31 albums,
Hmm.
a recipient of a liver transplant in
And
his
we almost
70s.
lost him. Yeah.
Yeah, in his 70s,
Mm-hmm.
playing 5 or 6 nights a week, touring in a van,
Mm-hmm.
and he plays incredible. He's an incredible guitar player,
Mm-hmm.
and he writes great songs. He sings
Yes.
great songs, you know, and he is carrying the blues torch
Yeah,
for a
he
lot
is.
of that are gone right now, you
Yep.
know, and that song "Broken," I'll give him a shout out right now. The song "Broken" with Beth Hart is
Mm-hmm.
brilliant.
It is.
It
I
is
mean, those
brilliant.
two together was long overdue, in my opinion.
And when I play that in the show with his show, you know, I get kind of chill bumps from it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I love that song. Um, yeah, I wrote songs for Walter. I wrote on his "We're All in This Together" album. I
Mm-hmm.
wrote something called "The Other Side of the Pillow" with him and Charlie Musselwhite.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, so it's like it's so much fun. I got to tell you, man, it's so much fun to be on your show and be able to talk like this. You know, my hat's off to you. I have hair. I have hair. My hat's
You have
off
more
to
than
you.
I do, so
Yeah, I gotta say it's so great having the time to explain, and your questions are really good. And so I thank you so much. You really thought about it. You know, and well, I will tell you this. On the next, hopefully, I think it's going to be on the Book of Secrets album. But I started writing a song because I finally went, you know what? If you listen to Quadrophenia or you listen to Tommy, you know they spent a lot of time on you know they really told a story, and it was a
Mhm.
lot of time. And the record company didn't give them a hajita. They said, okay, you know, do what you got to do. So I think on the next album, and I've written it, by the way, this song, it's called Henry,
Mm.
the greatest show on earth. And it's all about a kid, and I put myself into this. It's all about a kid that grows up in 1951. He's like 10 years old. And he lives in the back of a bait and tackle store in Homestead, Florida.
Mm.
And his mother is passed away. She was lost in the hurricane of 49. And he has no siblings, and he lives with his alcoholic father who just drinks all night and verbally, you know, abuses him, not sexually, but verbally, and you know, gives him a tug and occasionally slaps him, and he wakes up one night with his mother comes to him in a vision, and she says, "Travis, it's time for you to leave. Get on the train." And it was such a powerful vision that he gets up, grabs all the change that's in the cash register, and goes and gets on a train in the middle of the night. In 1951, Homestead, Florida, says to the conductor, "How far will this get me?" Hands him a bunch of change. He says, "Oh, we'll put you out off in the middle of the state in the morning." And the train stops in the morning, and it's still dark out. And he gets off the train. The train pulls away, and this big thud, 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 thud comes walking by him. This massive shape. And he doesn't know what it is. And another one comes walking by, and the sun starts to creep up. And he looks across the street, and it says, "Winter home of the greatest show on earth, Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus."
Mhm.
And an elephant walks by with a guy taking him to wash him. And a woman standing across the street. She says, "Hey, kid, come on over here. I'll feed you. I'm the cook." And he walks across the street, and she says, "You hungry?" And he says, "Yes, ma'am." She says, "All right, I'm going to feed you, but you got to help me clean up." And he says, "Yes, ma'am." She says, "What's your name?" Now, his real name is Travis Dupree. He says, "I can't tell you, ma'am." She goes, "Oh, okay. Well, we can't call you Hay, so we're going to call you Henry." And he said, "Why would you call me Henry?" She says, "Because in the circus, we speak in code. And Henry is code for runaway."
Mm.
And he spends his entire life at the circus from 1951 through 2017. the last show that Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus ever had.
Mhm.
And you follow him through the arc, through the circus. He goes to clown college. He drives the clown car. He's
Mhm.
the king of the clowns when they come in for the parade. He falls in love with an aerialist woman that gets shot out of the cannon. She's, in her 20s. He's 22.
Right.
And so, he stays Henry the rest of his life. And so I've written 11 pages of lyrics, and the song is 18 minutes long.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Very
And I
cool.
think what I want to do is make a animation out of it.
That would be cool. That
Yeah.
would be really cool.
So
And isn't there a museum for Ringling Brothers?
I believe there is.
That'd be a great place for that song to play all the time.
So that's what's great about being a songwriter. You can write a story and put it to music and develop the character and be real.
Yeah.
I like being real. I like being authentic. I mean, you know, I live in cardboard California where everything here is made to look like something else but not real.
Yep.
That's why we go to Disneyland, because we want to go to Pirates of the Caribbean, and
Yep.
see what Johnny Depp looks like, as a pirate. And
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
really just Keith Richards, right? So
yeah, and I love things like that. I love to suspend my disbelief,
Mhm, mhm.
um, and that's where I actually proposed to Nina on Tom Sawyer's Island
I'll be
and
darned. How cool.
at Disneyland. Yeah. So, we have all those things, and we it's great to be able to use them. I'm very
Mhm.
grateful for that. Yeah.
Cool. Well, what's on your radar for the rest of the year?
Well, I'm going to go out with Walter, and do the United States with him. I'm going to do the United Kingdom with him. I'm going to play some gigs on my own. I'm going to be here in LA. I've got the band with Tony Bronicle, Lawrence Juber, myself, Ricky Cortez. We're going to play the 22nd of June at a place called the Mint in
Mhm,
Hollywood. It's going to be like a record release party kind of thing.
mhm.
I'm going to go out and play some shows with Mike Zito. I'm going to open
Oh,
for
love
him.
Mike. Love Mike.
Yeah, I'm going to open for him just solo at the keyboard, doing
Very
kind of
cool.
a singer-songwriter keyboard kind of thing, master thing class on
Mhm,
songwriting.
mhm.
I'm going to be in Bakersfield on May 17th. Um, and I'm hopefully going to, get myself some management and a booking agent and go out as T-Bear. And
Very good.
I want to do that. What else am I doing? Um, I'm supposed to be back in Australia and New Zealand this next year. Um, I want to get to the Netherlands because I've had 2 number 1 records there. I want to play over there under T-Bear.
Mhm.
And I want to go in the studio and start the Book of Secrets.
Very cool.
Hopefully. Yeah.
When anytime you have an album coming out, I mean, whether you stay with John or anyone else, I love working with John Lampin.
Oh, he's
My bud.
fabulous.
He's my bud.
Yeah.
But please know my door is always open to you.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you.
We'll do these whenever you've got something new coming out. I'll text you this afternoon with my number. And then if you have, I don't want to interfere with your vacation, but if you have time, let's meet up for a drink or something. And
Yeah, let's absolutely do it.
I don't drink alcohol, but if you need to meet in a bar, I'll meet with you. Or coffee or tea or whatever, and we'll
Well,
just
I'll break my anonymity. My sober date was February 8th, 1983, so I've just
congratulations,
just celebrated 41 years of sobriety.
congratulations.
Yeah,
That's powerful.
but I'll meet with you in a bar, and I'll have
Well,
a
there's a lot of good places that aren't bars around here
non
in Pigeon Forge.
non-alcoholic
So
drink or whatever.
there you
Yeah,
go.
I'm cool with that.
All right. Well, I'll text you
Yeah,
on
the other thing that I do that I've been enjoying doing, and I started with COVID, was I have a live at the Bear Cave every Tuesday from 1 to 1:30 in LA time, and it's on Facebook, on T-Bear on Facebook. I do it Facebook Live, and I
cool.
have people from all around the world that come on that show, and we
Mhm.
talk about lots of things, and I play a few songs. just vocal piano.
Cool.
And the other thing is, I've had during COVID and during the last couple of years, I had a podcast that I did called The Bare Facts,
Oh.
and they're out on YouTube, and there's shows with Stephen Stills. I interview him. Edgar Winter, Chuck Lorre, the TV producer. Lee Sklar, the guys from the immediate family, Cooch and Waddy, and a lot of people and it's all people I've worked with over my in my lifetime. And a really good one with Jack Douglas, the producer. I still do sessions with him. He says, I like you doing, I like your work with of course, on your records, but Jack said to me, you play a lot like Nicky Hopkins and Leon Russell.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so you're like Leon Hopkins.
Jim Croce's son is kind of the same way. He kind of, AJ, he was under Leon for a while and played with him and all that kind of stuff. So it's, but if there's anything I can ever do to help you, T-Bear, on anything, please let me know, especially interviewing you so that your work gets plugged. I'll be more than happy.
Thank you so much.
And we'll be seeing you here, I guess, in a couple weeks.
Okay, cats and kittens, remember, if you can't help them, don't hurt them.
That's right. That's right.
Peace
Take
and
care,
love.
buddy. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.